Hey everyone, we're going to work on the pencil tutorial. So the first instruction is to launch Illustrator, and we're going to make a new document that's letter format, portrait orientation. When you launch Illustrator, you're going to find some presets already here. You can select the letter format if you want to, but if you just click on this preset, it's not going to allow you to make any changes to the document. If you want to be able to personalize the document more, you can go to More Presets, or File, New. And here you can see a bunch of presets, including some that I've done recently. We know that we want it to be a letter format document. If you don't have this in front of you, go to Print, and you're going to find the letter document here. So we'll select that. She wants it to be in portrait orientation. Here you can see the orientation. Portrait orientation means that the height is longer than the width. If we do it the opposite way and the width is longer than the height, this is called landscape format. And you can see the change happening here where they switch back and forth. I want it in portrait. I'm going to make this RGB color mode because I'm not actually going to print it. I'm going to use it online. And hit create. So here's our letter sized document. It doesn't actually look the same size as a letterhead piece of paper because it's only zoomed in to 54.49%. If I use this drop down arrow, I can change it to any zoom quality that I want. I can make it 100% of a page size or keep it zoomed out so that I can see the entire document on my screen. Professor wants you to save this in a specific way, using the first letter of your first name, your last name, underscore, and logo. So let's save this. Save as. And I'm going to go here to College, Spring 2022, Digital Illustration, and make a new folder for this assignment. Pencil Tutorial. Now it'll be easy for me to find in the future. The document is going to be named the way the professor wanted. So the first initial of my first name, my last name, underscore, logo. And the file type is already selected. So there we go. Next we're going to go to Illustrator, Preferences, Units, and set General to Inches. So we go up here to Illustrator, Preferences, Units, and here you can see the general is set to points. So that preset that we clicked on in the print mode was set to points. We want to change that to where it'll be inches because it's easier for us to use and measure. Next we're going to go to View, Show Grid, then View, Rulers, Show Rulers. So go up here to View, Show the Grid, View, Rulers, and Show Rulers. So now we've got our grid that we can follow, we've got our ruler on the top and on the side. If we zoom it in, we can see that it's starting at 0 point at the top corner. Next we're going to go to File, Document Setup. So right here, File, and come down here to Document Setup. This will allow you to make changes to some of those things that you did when you were first setting up your artboard. You can change the units, you can change the size, you can change the size of the grid, and so forth. For this one, for the units, we're going to choose inches. We've already got it set there, but if yours is opening up to pixels or points, change it to inches. And we're ready to start drawing. So we're going to go over here to the Shape tool, and we're going to click and hold it, and we can see all of our different shapes here. If we continue to click and hold, you can see a little triangle over here. Once you highlight that, if you release your mouse, you're going to get a toolkit here with all of your shapes. This assignment is really based on shapes, so having this here is going to be handy. We can come up here and just grab any shape we want and use it. If you find that your toolkit is missing the rounded rectangle tool, you come down here, click on the Edit toolbar, and this has every tool that you can use. So if it's not currently in your regular toolbar here, you can pull it out of here and put it there. And it's all divided into type of tools. So this is the selection tools. These are the draw tools. The shape tools are draw tools. And you can see I've already got all of them selected and in my toolbox. But if you find the rounded rectangle tool here, you can click it, drag it, and drop it in your toolkit so it's always there when you need it. And it should be here in your kit. Let's see what's next. So we're going to select the zoom tool, and we're going to click on the artboard until you zoom into 150%. 150% will show on the left corner of the window. So it's easy to do that. You just click that arrow, go to 150%. When you do that, you can see half inches, full inches, all the way across. If you feel like you need more specific measurements, you can zoom in even more, and now you can see you've got 3/4, quarter, and so forth. The more you zoom in, the more measurement selections you have. So put it where it's comfortable for you. Now we're going to go to View, Smart Guides, and turn them on. So View, Smart Guides. You can see there's a check mark next to it here for me. That means that I've already got it turned on. If you don't have a check mark there, release your mouse here so that you turn it on. Now we're going to go to View, Snap to Grid. You can see I don't have that turned on. There's no check mark there. So I'm going to aim at it and let my mouse go. Now when I go back and look, you can see that I turned it on with the check mark. Go to View, Info to display the info palette. I'm sorry, this is go to Window, I believe. Yes, go to Window. Info, you can see it's not turned on right now, so I'm going to turn it on. And there it is. And I can move this anywhere. Wherever it's not going to be in my way, but I can easily see it when I need it. Now we're going to select the rectangle tool and drag it to draw a rectangle that is 0.75 inches by 1 inch. So if I grab this tool and I go here, I can go on the 0, I can go on the 1, and I start in that corner, I can drag a rectangle. Now if you see that info palette up above me here, you can see it's doing the width and the height. So I can use that to get it aimed exactly where I want it. 0.75 by 1 inch. So in the info palette, you can see that. We just looked at that here. We know it's the right size. And with that tool still selected, we're going to position the pointer over the center of the rectangle, hold down the Alt key, and drag from the center out. If you remember from our last lesson, holding the Alt key when making a shape causes the shape to be drawn from the center outward. But look what happens if we try to do that right now with this still selected. If I go to that center point, hit Alt, and drag, it's actually going to make me a copy. So I don't want to do it that way until I come up here and lock that first rectangle. Now I don't have to worry that this rectangle is going to get moved around or reshaped. I can place my rectangle tool right in the center of it, hit the Option key, and there's our bullseye, and I can drag out. Now they don't tell us exactly how wide to make it, so I'm just going to eyeball it, and that looks pretty close to the right dimensions to me. So I'm going to let go of my mouse first, and then my keyboard key. So now we see that we have two rectangles. We know which one is selected by the bubble here, and when we look over here we can see which one is highlighted. So that's our inner rectangle. And this would be our outer rectangle. I'm going to lock them both. Now I don't have to worry that they're going to get moved or resized in any way while I continue to draw. Let's see what's next. We're going to go to that rounded rectangle tool. Click once on the artboard to open the rounded rectangle tool dialog box. This is a lot easier than trying to drag and watch your dimensions up here. When you're making a shape, you can select the tool and just click on the artboard, and it's going to allow you to type in exactly the size that you want. So in this case, we want a rounded rectangle that is 0.75 by 0.75. So we're really kind of making a rounded square. Because it's rounded, it also has a corner radius. That decides how tight the curve of the rectangle is going to be. In this case, we want it to be 0.2. And it makes that perfect shape for us without having to drag it and try to figure it out. If you see this dot inside a circle here, that controls the radius, so we can make it sharper or rounder. Anytime that you have a rounded shape like this, you'll find these options to be able to make it exactly fit your desired radius. I'm going to back out of that, put it back where it was. Take my selection tool and I'm going to put this right on top. And we're lined up perfectly with the grid here. Let's save this. And this is our eraser. Lock it up, and we're ready to move on. Now you're going to create the two shapes that make the metal band between the eraser and the pencil. So we're going to go back to that rounded rectangle tool. We're going to select it. This time we want it to be 0.85 in width and 0.1 in height. Click and change it. And they want the radius this time to be 0.05. And there we have it. So we're going to move that right over on top of the pencil. Let's see what's happening here with our grid. Over here it's going over a full square, but not quite as far here. And it's not going to allow me to do it exactly the way I want. In a case like that, I have to turn off my snap so that I can adjust it exactly the way I want it. I can always go back and turn snap back on later, but now you can see I put it right where I want it. Turn it back on for later. So next we're going to make the second band. If you remember from before, we can click on any shape, and if we're using the selection tool, the Alt or Option key become a copy key. So I can hit Option, click on my shape, and drag, and it's going to automatically copy it for me. You can see it's still jumping around. I'm going to release it. This is what happens if I release my Option key before I release my mouse. I lose the Option key, and so I lost my copy. So you have to release the mouse first. So I'm hitting Option, grabbing it and dragging, releasing the mouse first, and then the Option key. Now again, it's just not letting me put it exactly where I want it. So I'm going to turn off snap. Also, the more you zoom in, the more control you have. So if I zoom in more, I can control exactly where I'm placing this. There. Zooming in allowed me to put it exactly where I wanted it. It just gives you more control. Let's save. So the one that's highlighted here, that's the top metal piece. And the one below it will be the bottom metal piece. Lock those up and they're safe. And we're ready to move on. Now we're going to make the triangles that are going to be the pencil point and the pencil lead. This is what we're ultimately going for. So to draw the triangles, we're going to use the polygon tool. First we're going to go up here, we're going to select view, and watch what happens when I change it to outline. Now I have only the outlines. So when they tell you before you drawing the triangles to come to view outline to switch from preview to outline, that's allowing you to see everything, even if a shape is filled. You can see through those fills and you can line everything up according to their centers. So when I make this triangle, I know I can center it right here. So select the polygon tool, position the pointer over the center point of the two rectangles, which is right here. We've got a rectangle here and a rectangle here, and they have the same center point. I want my triangle to have the same center point. So when I select polygon, I'm going to point it right over. And you can see here a triangle has 3 points. So it's already set there, but the polygon tool can have as many points as you want. Here you can see a 15 side polygon. But since we want it to be a triangle, it's going to have 3 sides. So we're going to put it right over that center point, give it 3 sides, and it's perfectly aligned. We can see that we want it to be upside down. So the next thing that they suggest we do is turn it around. We're going to rotate it by using the selection tool. And once you have the selection tool, you can see if you hover in a corner, you can spin it. So I can spin it like this. But how do I know I'm going to get it exactly pointing downward? If I hit the shift key, it's going to place it exactly for me. It'll do that at any 1/8 point. In this case, it's doing 1/4 points, depending on the size. So I'm going to come down here, even right about here. If I hit the shift key, it's going to predict that I want it pointed straight down. Release the mouse first, and then the shift key. Again, remember with the shift key, if we're using these points to make something larger or smaller, the shift key will keep the proportions proper. If I just drag this without the shift key, I'm going to lose the proportions in the shape. So I'm going to move this down because we know we want it at the bottom. About here. You see that pink line? It's telling us that we're still lined up with that center point. So that's right where we want it. But we want to resize it. So I'm going to hit the shift key to keep the proportions and drag it. And watch the pink lines now. Oh, it didn't give us the pink lines, but you can see that you're lined up. So this is the perfect size, perfectly aligned. Now we need to make another rectangle to do the lead. To do that, we're going to use the scale key. If you come over here, if you have the rotate tool in your toolbox, click and hold and select scale tool. From there, we want to make another triangle that's perfectly aligned with the tip here. So that's the point we're going to use to make that shape. So we make sure that that shape is selected. Go to our scale tool. We're going to aim over it, but then we're going to hit the Option key before we click on it. And here's what that does. Option click, and I get this scale menu. We want this to be 30% in size. So we're going to change this to 30%. We're not going to hit OK, because you can see with the preview, what that's going to do is it's going to resize our original triangle to be 30% of its size. We want to keep the original triangle and have the 30% size one. So if you remember from our last lesson, instead of hitting OK, we're going to hit copy. And that allows us to keep both the original and the new triangles. And they're perfectly aligned. Next, we're going to use the line segment tool. And it's kind of hard to tell what that's going to be for right away, but you'll see that in a minute. Right now, I'm going to get back to preview so that you can better see the line segment that we're doing. And this is your line segment tool right here. So when I select it, I can start it at any point, drag out, but how do I know I'm getting it perfectly straight? I hit my shift key and it's perfectly straight. Release the mouse first. You can do that with a vertical line as well. Hit shift and it's perfectly straight. Let go of the mouse first and then the shift key. Right now we need a horizontal line, so we're just going to keep that for now. So here's our final step. We get to do the fun stuff, the filling and the strokes. Let's make sure that everything is named so it's easy for us. We only have one line segment tool, so we can leave that. Which rectangle is this? This is our lead, which means this is the pencil tip. Now everything is labeled and we can easily select them for filling and stroking. So let's take a look. We can see that the eraser, the two metal parts, both of the rectangles, and the lead need to be black. So we can select all of those. The lead, hit the shift key. We want the top metal part, the bottom metal part, the eraser, and both rectangles to all be black. But now what do we do to get all of these white separation lines? These particular shapes need a white stroke. So let's go back, click out, and now we only want the two metal pieces and the center rectangle. As soon as I select one of those, it's going to get rid of the rest of the selections that I have here. So let's start with the top metal, shift, bottom metal. Keeping your shift key down, we want the inner rectangle. And we want to turn that stroke to white. And there we can see it. It's looking good. So we've got our pencil tip right. We can see here they have these a little closer together. I can select the one shape and move it, and that looks good. Now they don't give us a specific purpose for this line segment that they created. And if we look at it, it's really hard to tell where they're using it. But it looks like they might have a space down here. So we'll go ahead and put it there. The important thing for you was to learn how to do a line segment. Let's turn off our grid and take a look. Hide grid. And there it is.